I have a question for you.
All right.
Now, if any of you have questions for me or Zero, you can comment on the bottom of this podcast segment for a question that you may have for us. You can also email us at zerowizcast@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Capital Games Pod. And if you have a question, you can always ask a question on one of my Twitter posts. So, numerous ways to get in contact with us if you have a question for us to ask. But anyway, Zero, here is my question. We not only do a games podcast, we also do a movie podcast. And I was going to save this for the movie one, but I wanted to hear your answer for this question specifically. Two things were shown off this past week in regards to movies based on game franchises. The first was that Onimusha is being turned into an anime from Netflix, which kind of surprised me since they gutted their entire animation division. But apparently, Capcom is fronting them money to make an Onimusha anime, and the hero is going to be modeled after Toshiro Mifune, which plus on me for that one. What did you think of the announcement of the Onimusha anime?
It's interesting, especially since the Onimusha franchise has been on ice, and the only thing it's gotten in recent years is the first game has gotten a few remakes on modern day gaming platforms, and that's about all the series has even seen.
And that didn't do very well. I mean, I remember that going on sale rather quickly when it came out. So.
Oh yeah, so yeah, just nothing that I expected from the series, and it was just like, wow, there's actually some stuff going on. Okay, cool, neat.
Yeah, from what I saw, they only showed like 4 screenshots, and it looked neat. But I kind of have to agree. Why are they going to this brand? Really? I mean, I'm kind of shocked with Like, they're not the only company that's doing this. A lot of companies are using dormant IPs in order to make TV shows or auctioning onto movies. Like, we had one a few weeks ago where Sega was trying to do a Comic Zone movie or a Space Channel 5 movie. And they haven't made any of those games in decades. I don't get that to a certain extent. Like, even if you have nostalgia for it, you're nostalgic for the game. You're not nostalgic to see a movie about it. So I don't get this at all. Like, for Capcom. But would I be interested in it? Sure. But again, like, are they doing this in hopes that it'll drum up more excitement for a possible game? If that's the case, I don't think that's a smart idea. Because unless the show is fantastic, like, especially with Netflix, all people do is new show comes on, they binge the 8 episodes, on to the next one. And it's pretty much forgotten after that. So I don't, because views won't matter as much in that circumstance. So I'm not sure, if this is a good idea. I mean, what do you think?
It'll be neat to see when it pops on Netflix and everything. But again, I'm kind of with you. Just, this is neat, but I don't really see much. I don't really see much of a clamor for this sort of thing. But just hey, if Capcom wants to do it to try to drum up some excitement in hopes of maybe spinning off an Onimusha game in the future, cool effort on them. But yeah, this is not something that I am expecting to sell gangbusters or anything. So no. I'm also additionally confused on why they're doing this.
Right. I agree. I think it will get decent views, but unless it's fantastic, it'll be a 1 or 2 day thing that people talk about, and then it'll be forgotten. And that's not going to work, really. I think maybe they're hoping it's an Edge Runner situation where people watch Edge Runners, they really like it, and then they go play Cyberpunk 2077 and buy that on sale. Maybe that's the mentality, but even then, Onimusha is a 20-year-old game. Is it 20 years old now?
Yeah, it was a PS2 game.
Yeah. Oh my god! Wow. Yeah, that's right. They haven't made a new one since Onimusha Dawn of Demons. What was the last Onimusha? Onimusha's been is only PS2, right? They never made a PS3 or PS4 version.
Nope. I mean, there have been some
Right.
remaster collections, but that's been about it.
Yeah. So yeah, like this. Yeah, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it, to be completely honest. What I do get though is The Last of Us being made into an HBO TV series to a certain extent. I get it, and they showed off the teaser this week for The Last of Us. This is the one that's coming out in 2023, starring Pedro Pascal. Were you able to watch the teaser?
Yep, I was.
Okay, good. I like Pedro Pascal. He's a charming actor. He was especially charming in the small bit he was in with Game of Thrones. And I'll be honest too. I haven't seen much of The Mandalorian. The Star Wars is I'm just not a fan really. I'll watch the movies, but asking me to watch a 10 episode series, nah, sorry. For him to play Joel in the game, and I didn't beat the game because I didn't like the gameplay very much in The Last of Us, but I definitely enjoy the characterization and stories. Joel comes off as a dick most of the times, an unlikable, kind of detestable person, but for good reasons. I don't know if Pedro Pascal can pull that off. Maybe I'd like to be wrong on that. I really do. And if he does, great. I will. That would be cool. Yeah, I don't. Him playing Joel, I kind of don't see to a certain extent. Maybe they do. This is also a fair thing too to say. Maybe they change it enough to where Pedro Pascal can fit into the role better. Okay, good. But from what they've shown from the teaser, they seem to be really marrying themselves to the source material, which is the game. And so much so that they're name dropping Neil Druckmann in the trailer, which I will point out that is probably a bad idea to a certain extent. But I'll give it a shot. But after the whole controversy with 2, unless you are really spacing everything out where maybe you don't get into part 2 until the final season, I don't. I hope they do something different with the series and not just stick religiously to the game. But then that will piss off people who are fans of the games, so they're in an untenable situation. I'm interested, but I'm cautiously interested. What do you think?
Yeah, I was kind of the same way when I saw the trailers. I was like, oh, neat, just it looks like they're really going hard into the aesthetic of the game and everything, the dilapidated towns and whatever.
Right.
So whoever's their set designer, man, they really studied the living shit out of the game, which is great.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, just my ultimate concern is much like yours. Just how much are they sticking to the established story of the game? Because if they're sticking to it 1-to-1, then potentially people who have played the game are just going to kind of write it off as boring. We've already seen that before.
well,
But
you'd be surprised because there are people who, like with comic books, for example, if they don't stick 1-to-1 to the comic books, they hate it. Like they just want what's comfortable and what they are comfortable with. And I can see people looking at The Last of Us thing. If they change one iota of it, I'm going to hate it. So there is that contingency to a certain extent. I think the smart idea would be to change it up. To be completely honest, is to do something. Maybe stick to the plot, but change it enough where you can go to different directions
yeah,
in the series. But then my question then becomes, well, people notice what happens at 2. And 2 was very divisive. I know it won Game of the Year, but when that happened, people were like, ugh. Like, there were a lot of people who were like, that won Game of the Year? What? Like, that... Like, people were not happy with what they did with... There's a large group. Love them or hate them. But there are a large group of people who are fans of The Last of Us who were not happy with what they did with 2. and what they specifically did to a character in that game. Are you going to stick to that? Because if you are, then you're just delaying the inevitable till someone goes, "Oh, they did the same thing in 2. Oh, this is terrible," and you're back at square one all over again. And then that leads to Neil Druckmann. I get Neil Druckmann is a creative force towards the game, and he deserves credit for 1, and to those who love 2, okay, he deserves credit for that. But he's also a divisive figure now. Now you're going to have someone goes, "Oh, wait, who's this Neil Druckmann guy? Let me Google it. Oh, there's this large group of people who hate Neil Druckmann. Why is this?" And they go down the rabbit hole as to why they don't like Neil Druckmann. I mean, I don't know. Like, a part of me is like, I get he deserves the credit for it, because if it wasn't for him, like, this was his creativity that created this. So he does deserve credit. But to put that on Main Street, even though he is now considered a divisive figure, a divisive person, which I will say is not fair to a certain extent. Like, in my opinion, I don't think that's entirely fair. Yeah, like, I would like to know what direction they're going in this series. Because if they're just going to stick religiously to the game, I'm now less and less interested in it. But if they're going to branch out into different things throughout the series, then okay, fine. Like, I will look forward to it. But yeah, I don't know, Zero. Like, because the spoiler for 2 is out there now. Like, can you imagine someone really watching this series and being like, "I wonder what happens in the second one," and then they find out and go, "What? They did what in the second? What?" And then saying, "Well, I'm not going to watch this." Like, am I wrong? Like, could you see that happening, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I mean, I could most certainly see that being a possibility. Just people going, "Wow, that's what happens in this." Okay, yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all, or that doesn't sound like it. It's going to be a fun plot line to go down, or whatever.
Well, The Last of Us, in terms of a story, is not a fun story. It is a
No.
It is a sobering, a very serious type of story, which, I'm all for. Like, I'm cool with that. I mean, you're asking to get attached to characters at a certain extent, and I have no problem essentially with what 2 did story wise. Like, I know the spoilers are out there, but I'm not going to talk about it. But I'm fine with it, because I've seen plenty of movies that are divisive and play with people's expectations and love the hell out of them. Like, Fargo is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that played with people's expectations all the time, and I loved it for it. But it just depends on what you do. But people were not happy. Like, a lot of people were just not happy when they found out what happened in 2. So I don't know. But then it's double-edged sword. Either you piss off the people who love 2, or you piss off the people who didn't like 2. And then if you're doing The Last of Us 1, you're going to piss off the people who are going to be like, "Well, I don't want to rewatch the game. That's stupid." And then you're going to have also people who are going to be pissed off going, "Oh, you're doing something different than what I recall? That's stupid." Like, I just think this was a bad idea to develop into a game because of a movie or a series, because of how specifically divisive it is. Like, I think this will get a season, maybe 2, and that's it. Because I think this is a very expensive series. So, and this is the same thing that happened with the Game of Thrones. Like, Game of Thrones costs a ton of money, and the only reason why HBO went forward with Game of Thrones was because they sunk so much money into it. The original, if you read up about the original pilot of Game of Thrones, it didn't turn out very well, and HBO made the decision basically to then, okay, we'll give you more money since we've already put more money into this. Reshoot it with a different director, please. And that's how you got Game of Thrones as it is today, essentially. Like, I can see them doing that with The Last of Us for maybe 2 seasons, and that's it. I don't.
Yeah, it'll
just,
be real interesting to just see how this all pans out. Because I know I sure as hell will be real curious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have much of an opinion either way, mostly because of the fact that just I tried to play through 1, couldn't get through it, and then I never ended up picking up 2 since I didn't beat Last of Us 1.
My nephew played through 1, which I was shocked by because he was 9 or 10 at the time. And I'm like, your mom let you play that? I was like, wait a minute. I was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, what did you think of it? Oh, it was great. I can't wait to play 2. And then when I found out what was in 2, I'm like, I'm not letting him play that. When the sex scene happens, and like when I heard about the sex scene, essentially, it was like, yeah, you're not playing that. I don't care. Like, I don't care if your mom doesn't care. I'm not letting you play that. Like, forget that. Like, I actually own 2, and I got on sale for like $5 once. And he saw, oh, great, I'm going to play that. Like, no, you're not. It's like, there's no fucking way I'm letting you play that. And he's like, why? My mom doesn't care. I'm like, I care. like, I care that you're playing that. Nah, you're not playing that. When he gets older, like, I guess 13 or 14, maybe I would be like, okay, fine, whatever. But at that age, fuck no. I'm not allowing it. Thank you for listening to this podcast segment. The Capital Games podcast is done every week, and we post it on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as segments on YouTube. If you want to listen to another segment, you can listen to a new one right there on the screen. We also do a movie podcast called the Capital Games Movie Club. If you'd like, you can go ahead and click on that and see all the movies that we have reviewed from that point. Thank you for listening, and we hope to hear from you soon.